Hello and welcome to the 200th edition of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm the professor, Matt Perkins. And a shovel pass across the Harpeth River from me here in the Music City, it's our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton.
What's up, guys? I like shovel passes. Those are really good. They're really effective sometimes. Not for us at Hillwood. I don't think we would know what a shovel pass is, but we've got a big game going on tomorrow. Believe it or not, as big of an atmosphere as you can have at a middle school, which is the site of the original Bellevue High School, which is the reason why we bought our new alternate uniforms in the first place. So it's the Bellevue alumni homecoming we play against Antioch. So that'll be fun for tomorrow night. But you know what's even more fun? Doing the show and talking college football with you guys.
Well, we appreciate that, Coach. And we couldn't get started, though, without the third amigo in the second city, a man who wants to party like it's 1869. It's our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
Well, is a time for celebration. The Dodgers have been eliminated, and as a Padre fan, great. And by the way, Kershaw.
Well, let's focus on your joy of the Dodgers losing and not wallow in the fact that the Braves, who are the team of both the coach and myself, have yet again choked in the postseason. So that was, you know what? I was still at work during the first inning. At least I knew I didn't have to rush home to turn it on.
There you go.
That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, it's our 200th show. That is crazy. 5 seasons in. So thank you to all of you listeners out there who have been supporting us through all of this. Special shout out to Aunt Sally, our number one fan. Today on the show, we are going to get
Love you, Aunt Sally.
We're going to get to a lot of the big games, including the Red River Shootout. But we're going to start with our adopted teams. And we're starting on a sour note then, Josh, because your Eastern Michigan Screaming Eagles got absolutely smoked by the Shark Humpin' Chips.
Yeah, it's just a short trip from Ypsilanti to Mount Pleasant, but the rush defense didn't make the trip. Central had over 300 rushing yards, Eastern just 60. But they host Ball State next. Ball State, another manageable team. Remember, the Screaming Eagles are trying to make it to a bowl game, not the MAC title game. So that goal is still on the table.
Yeah, and obviously they can still make it there, but I think the road just got a lot tougher for them. Coach, your Georgia State squad beat Arkansas State in a surprising home win, which makes Arkansas State 0-2 in the state of Georgia this year. They get Coastal Carolina this weekend, and they might have a little bit of momentum now.
Yeah, they do. I mean, anytime you put up 52 points on the board, that's good. They played very well against Arkansas State, something that I didn't expect. Dan Ellington was 29 of 41, 382 and a touchdown. Looks like every running back got in on the fun. Trey Barrett, he scored one. He led all rushers with 139 on 14 carries. Dan Ellington actually dual threat, 19 carries, 69 yards. He scored on the ground as well. Destin Coates, 15 carries, 66. He scored 3 times. So Georgia State off and running. So Coastal, better watch out on the teal turf. And, so Georgia State finally back on track, coming off a tough loss against Texas State. They needed this one to kind of get some momentum back in conference play. So,
speaking of that conference, Sunbelt is getting fun. There are there are upsets happening all over the place. Sunbelt has been absolutely wild this year. The American has not exactly gone to plan either. My ECU Purple Pirates, they're really, I can't really call them as mine. They're all of our ECU Pirates. We all love the Purple Pirates. They lost to a really tough Temple squad last Thursday. They only managed 327 total yards in the game, less than 6 yards per pass attempt, less than 3 yards per rush attempt. It was just not pretty. But again, Temple doesn't seem to matter who the coach is, whether it's Jeff Collins, Matt Rule, Manny Diaz. Oh wait, never mind. They're they're going to have a good defense. ECU gets a bye this week, so they have 2.5 weeks off between games. I think that's probably good for them. They've been a little banged up this early in the season, so that extended rest period might be just what they need to really kick it into gear for the second half of their season. Speaking of games in the American last week, Josh, the wildest and most fun finish was definitely in that SMU versus Tulsa game. That was probably the most fun I had watching college football last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was I don't know what to say about it. It was a phenomenal game. SMU roared all the way back. It was nonstop action, and it went into overtime. 500 yards of offense for Tulsa, 440 for the Ponies. Just like, what else do you want? I mean, this SMU team, watch them. They're well coached. They're a fun watch, and
their jerseys look pretty damn good too.
Yeah, they look.
How about scoring? How about scoring on a kickoff coverage?
Yeah,
touchdown on kickoff coverage. Think about that. Just think about the possible ways you can score as a kickoff coverage unit.
Oh, it's completely wonderful.
It was a thing of beauty. If the ball hits inbounds and rolls into the end zone, guess what, guys? It's a live ball. Only if it goes into the end zone first, and the team makes no attempt to get it, the refs will usually blow it as a touchback. But if it lands in the field of play first and then rolls into the end zone, it is a live ball, and therefore you can fall on it and score. So maybe they'll go over that in film session this week, and maybe they'll learn that. So
yeah, they can only hope.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes. So anyhow, Josh, I get a feeling that we've been burying the lead a little bit early for some reason. Something's just nagging at me.
We have a very early burying the lead. One of my best friends in the world, a DePaul grad school fellow alum, our resident Arkansas Razorback fan, that's where he did his undergraduate work. Also tangentially a Kansas fan from your family. So you've been listening to Snoop Dogg a lot. My good friend Mitch is here to tell us the proper way to do the Woo Pig Suey chant.
Yes. First off, it's Woo Pig Suey, and secondly, it goes Woo Pig Suey. And you do that 3 times, and then it gets really annoying, so you don't want to do it the rest of the game. But hello, everyone. Long-time listener, first-time participant. Happy to be here.
And a big congrats is in order. Mitch is back up in Chicago for this weekend for his bachelor party, as he is married here in a few months in the lovely city to Rachel. Senator?
Yes.
Remember.
Rachel, I would certainly hope you know her name, Joshua.
No, she's really cool. We made her sing karaoke one time. That was a good memory.
Rachel is a Texan, but we met in Arkansas. And so, I know how much you guys all love Arkansas. It's always a priority to make sure you're talking about the Razorbacks on the show.
Now, is she really a Texan, or is she a Texarkanian?
Well,
that's a border town, my friend.
So, she might not even be that. She's born in Long Island, so she's technically a New Yorker. But no, she's born and raised Texarkana, Texas, Arkansas, right there on the border.
Texarkanian.
Yeah. Yep. So Matt, you and I
are different kind of Texan.
By an SEC fan, sort of an SEC fan.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 Big Ten fans.
Yep.
Wait, sort of an SEC.
There's a punchline in there somewhere.
Okay, all right. I do stand by I always say Arkansas should be in the Big 12. I'll stand by that.
They should be. They and Nebraska both should be.
Oh yeah,
they all belong.
Hey, now, my first Coach, big college football game.
Hey, Coach, can we interest you on a Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland to the SEC for Arkansas trade?
Not only no, but hail to the no. Hail to the no, no, no.
I mean, you can't give Rutgers away.
In other words, no.
Speaking of Rutgers, they've gotten shut out a lot this year. Even though they haven't faced Wisconsin yet, the Badgers have been shutting teams out. They got their third shutout of the season in 5 games. They join a list of only 19 other schools since the year 2000 to have at least 3 shutouts in a season. They've done it in half a season. If they get 2 more this year, and with the way the Michigan State's been moving the ball, there's a potential they could do it this weekend. They could surpass.
Matt, I have a sneeze coming on. Hang on. Brian Ferentz. There's another shutout that could.
Yeah, there we go. They would top Alabama and Virginia Tech, who are the only 2 teams that have at least 4 shutouts in a season since the turn of the 21st century. Speaking of that game, let's get right to it. It is going to be a windy one up in Madison this weekend when the Badgers host the Spartans, who are coming off an absolute shellacking by the hands of the Buckeyes in Columbus last weekend. They lost 34-10, and frankly, that game was over in the second quarter. Josh, Ohio State was the first team this year who was able to really run the ball on Michigan State. Can the Badgers follow suit?
Yes, because it's Michigan State. They were a little bit of some eye candy, but it's easy to pad your stats when you play Tulsa, Western Michigan, Northwestern Indiana. Arizona State shut them down. Ohio State shut them down. Wisconsin shut them down. Michigan State is your classic 7-8 win bowl team, but they're not a contender for anything.
Coach, on the other side of the ball, Michigan's offense has really seemed to struggle a lot this year, despite having Brandon Lewerke back again. What can they do against a Badger defense?
His name is Brian, not Brandon.
Brian. That's how good he's been. I don't even haven't even bothered to learn his first name.
Fair enough.
It can be Brandon, Brian. I don't really care. Either way, is there anything they can get going against the Badger defense who, like I said, they just shut out another team, albeit Kent State, over the weekend, and the Badger defense has now scored more points than they had given up on the season.
Yeah, this is one of the best defenses in the Big Ten. They just, Brian Leonard, the defensive coordinator, has done a tremendous job.
That's Jim Leonard.
Yeah, so you got me on this Brian thing. Brian's song. Okay.
No, man, I don't want to cry tonight, man. I was trying to hold back the tears from the 200th episode.
It's my boy Piccolo. Yeah, 200th episode. We're off to a rousing start. We're doing just as well with the first names of these players in this game as Daniel Jones is doing against the Patriots defense right now. But anyway, Jim Leonard, formerly of the New York Jets and formerly of the Badgers as a walk-on, is doing a tremendous job with this defense. They're one of the best in the Big Ten. Like you said, they're very, very stingy. They fly around. They're physical. They have a lot of playmakers around the ball, and everybody. What I love about it is everybody just does their job and does it well, and it's just nasty. And with the weather conditions expected to be less than stellar, I don't expect Michigan State to be able to get a whole lot done. They couldn't get a whole lot done in perfect conditions against this defense, and it's only going to be worse.
Yeah, Josh, do you think the conditions will play a big factor in the outcome of the game, or is it going to be no matter what happens? They're going to be trying to stack the run anyway. It doesn't matter because they not like the Badgers are really trying to throw the ball 40 times a game. So into this win shouldn't be that big of a deal. It
doesn't matter. Michigan State's not that good of a team.
Okay, then. Okay.
Well, the Wisconsin Badgers are coached by an all-time legend, one of the best coaches in college football history, Brett Bielema.
Whoa, wait, Mitch. We do call him Bert. That's one of our many jokes that we call him Bert Bielema.
The Wisconsin Badgers are coached by one of the best coaches in college football history, Bert Bielema, who I just heard is going to take a position up at Arkansas as their next head coach. He wants to get that SEC experience in the best conference in the country, and I bet he's going to do great. He's going to turn the program. You know, they've been down ever since ever since Fabio Trino got on a motorcycle and had an affair and rode his motorcycle with his mistress and then got into an accident.
And wore the greatest neck brace in the history of mankind.
Exactly. But I just got word that Brett Bielema is heading to Arkansas, and I guarantee in 4 years from now, Arkansas is going to win national championship with Brett Bielema or Bert Bielema.
Sounds about right.
Bert Bielema. I like it.
All right.
I like it. Maybe they'll fire him in the tunnel at the national championship game.
Yeah. Yep.
While they're still on the field. Josh.
In all fairness, my favorite aspect about the Bobby Petrino picture is he's wearing his Sugar Bowl hat in it as like a reminder, like, hey, we just had a good season.
I just took y'all to the Sugar Bowl.
And one quick thing on that whole accident. So before it came out that before the entire downfall of Bobby Petrino at Arkansas, for a full week, guys on scooters were riding around campus with blow-up dolls, so female dolls, on the back of their scooters right around campus, and with little signs on their scooters saying "Free Petrino," trying to check by Petrino with his scandal.
Always nice to have the support of the scooting community.
Yes, exactly. There's a rally outside of Old Main too, so that was fun.
Well, Josh, let's actually stick in the Big Ten and head to another top 25 battle within the conference. This time, undefeated number 10 Penn State heads to Kinnick Stadium to take on the Hawkeyes, who are coming off of not their greatest offensive performance in history last week, losing at Michigan 10-3 in what was a game of just in self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound.
It was, in all honesty, a classic case of the more talented team out coaching themselves. They mess it up entirely. Iowa ended with 1 rushing yard because they had their quarterback get sacked enough times to result in 65 yards of negative rushing. I mentioned it. If Wisconsin has the blueprint, all Iowa has to do is pop in that laser disc and watch and see what Wisconsin did. Well, they gave their starting running back 8 carries. They gave their second of their two-headed monster 7 carries. They gave their most dynamic player 6 carries. They passed it a whole bunch. They did a delightful play-action pass in the second half when they hadn't been running the ball at all, and Michigan didn't buy it. They literally changed nothing in the face of blitzes. They totally outcoached themselves. And the laws of Ferentz football says that they will now upset Penn State a week after that, because when you look like dog crap in Iowa football, the very following week you rally and somehow win. And as Kirk Ferentz famously said after blowing a major lead against Nebraska, quote unquote, that's football.
That's football. Coach, the Knits have had just an absolutely explosive offense so far this season. They look great. I mean, they are scoring 47 points a game, basically 500 total yards a game. You think they can keep it up against an Iowa defense that is year in and year out one of the best in the country?
Well, I'm sure that it'll be a little bit tougher, given the circumstances of what they're doing. They're going on the road to Kinnick Stadium, the mighty pink locker room, still one of my favorite things of all time. But they're just clicking on all cylinders right now, and it's going to be tough. Iowa's going to have their hands full with this offense, as explosive as they are. They're not going to be anything that they faced all year. They're fast. They just again, year in and year out, it just plug and play. You go from Saquon Barkley to Miles Sanders, and then now this group is just been outstanding. So Sean Clifford has been terrific. He's been able to stretch the field vertically. He's not making these massive mistakes, and he's just getting the ball where it needs to go, and that's kind of what helps Penn State stay clicking.
I'm going to be at that game, by the way. I am heading back after work tomorrow.
Oh.
And the last few games, Iowa has covered for Penn State, Iowa, and me in attendance because I am the X Factor. One of those games was a Daniel Murray field goal to win it, a big upset. But here's the thing. Going back to the Michigan game, and I'm going to do my best not to swear, Matt, because this is a show that you have to edit.
Yes, I know. It's okay. I don't mind the extra work if it really makes you feel the way you need to feel right now.
Iowa totally just had zero ineptitude a week ago. The defense
Zero ineptitude. I think you want to rephrase that.
No, I don't. That's how dumb they were. They didn't even find a way to be inept. That's how stupid they were. I stand by that.
So they were below inept.
I'm not going to lie.
Gotcha.
Again, a good friend of mine is here for their bachelor party, and we've had some drinks, man. But anyway, Iowa's offense was an abomination a week ago. They were awful.
They really showed their ineptitude.
They did. Some would even say it was zero ineptitude.
We learned that.
They are the ineptitudes.
Some say there is no ineptitude.
But here's the thing. The defense played their asses off. That was one of the best defensive games I've ever seen. They gave up one play in the first half. It was a 50-yard pass that set up a touchdown. After that, Phil Parker, the brilliant defensive coordinator, realized, okay, we can't go toe-to-toe with this team. We're no longer going to play man-to-man coverage. We're going to go in zone. He went zone the rest of the game. He made adjustments. Defense played phenomenal. Offense made zero adjustments. Offense had no coherent play calling. I mentioned that they ran a play-action pass in the second half when they hadn't been running the ball literally at all. They had I didn't feel like counting all the plays off, but they were at about single digits for called running plays in the second half. That was stupid. They had their wide receiver, Brandon Smith, tweaked an ankle. They did not take him out of the game. So they were playing a wide receiver who could not run any routes. That was idiotic. It was the biggest joke of an offensive game that I can remember. I hate to go with like hyperbole and say it's the worst offensive game call ever because I don't really know. But it's the worst one that I can remember in quite a while. Having said all that, I mentioned at the start of this rant that the last few games I've gone to between Iowa and Penn State have been close. There are certain coaches that, for whatever reason, don't like an opponent, and they kick their butt into gear. Kirk Ferentz is from the state of Pennsylvania, didn't get a look by Joe Pa and Penn State. He doesn't like that school. Iowa's going to work their ass off in this game. I think it's going to be close. I hope it's close, and I hope Iowa wins. But we'll see. Coach laid out how good their offense is. There's a very good chance that Iowa gets blown off the field. But that's not what my gut says. My gut says that Iowa finds a way to keep this close. They have a great defense. And this is the game that the Ferentz family cares about, not Michigan. And I'll leave it at that.
My gut says I need some barbecue.
Well, one good place to get barbecue would be the Red River Shootout at the
and
Cotton
fried
Bowl.
Oreos.
At the Cotton Bowl, Coach.
Yeah.
We got you like offense from Penn State. Can I interest you in Oklahoma's 53.4 points per game, 644 yards per game? Jalen Hurts just looking like an absolute stud. Over 2,000 combined yards so far, 21 total touchdowns. They will be taking on Sam Ellinger, who himself has been putting up some pretty big numbers, Coach. Should be a lot of offense on display here. Most people, including Vegas, like the Sooners. They're 10.5-point favorites. How do you see this one playing out?
I see it playing out kind of like Vegas does. I think the Sooners will be way too explosive. Jalen Hurts is a freaking weapon of mass destruction for the Sooners. And what impresses me the most is that Lincoln Riley is able to not only put up massive stats 3 years in a row with three different quarterbacks, but he's able to do it in three different styles of play. So you had Baker Mayfield, who was more of the RPO, sort of zone read, power read, sort of option when they wanted to get fancy. But for the most part, he was vertical passing, RPOs, lead the offense, kind of more air raid style. Then you have Kyler Murray, who's kind of had more of his feet in the option world, but was still kind of doing the RPO stuff as well that Baker Mayfield did, and kind of merged the two. And then now you got Jalen Hurts, who is power read, zone read, a lot of quarterback runs, some downfield throws, but not as much RPO, not as much vertical passing, way more in the option world. So, it's just like almost three different kind of styles of play for Oklahoma. And that's kind of what impresses me, is that Lincoln Riley is able to tap into the strengths of his quarterback and really make the offense click around him. And Jalen Hurts has been, Alabama fans are scratching their head right now going, who is that guy? And I didn't know he could throw that well. And really, he is. I mean, he's doing everything he did at Alabama with his feet. And they haven't had to pass a lot, but he's had 17 touchdown throws this year. He's only thrown 2 interceptions. So he is throwing, but he hasn't really had to throw a ton. As much, and I don't think he's thrown as much as Baker Mayfield and as much as Kyler Murray. I'd have to really dive into the stats to kind of figure out exactly the breakdown.
No,
but
he's definitely running a little bit more than those guys.
And he's completing a 75% clip.
But that's because a lot of stuff he's completing is screens. It's a lot of fast screens, a lot of
short, quick game stuff.
Yeah, basically screens, just stacked receivers on the outside, just one blocker in front of the guy, athlete on athlete, one-on-one, and they like their guys in the open field, and I don't blame them. CeeDee Lamb is a beast.
Oh yeah. And I think that's the extent of their RPO game is they have a quick read on a quick screen off of a run play, but and then some of the big plays they've hit have been off play action. So God Almighty, very impressive. Lincoln Riley, his phone's going to be ringing off the hook from NFL teams this offseason. So
Lincoln Riley can choose his job.
Yeah, he really could.
I mean, you could make a pretty strong argument that he is he would be the number one coaching candidate for any vacancy, NFL or college.
Anywhere. I mean, anywhere.
Considering his age. Because, I mean, obviously, like Belichick, Saban, Dabo. First of all, hey, we all know those guys. All those guys are not going anywhere.
No, they're not. They're not.
Nor do they need to.
No, and nor do they should. So, to be honest with you, we can say what we want about Oklahoma and our opinions about Oklahoma as a university and as a program, history-wise. We can say what we want to say, but right now they're freaking exciting to watch.
Yeah, they are. They really are, and I hate that because I don't want to like them. Another team that we never really liked, someone who really never likes them is Josh, especially combine the University of Texas with Tom Herman, the coach that he considers to be the greatest fraud probably in all of college football. I mean, Texas and Sam Ellinger won this game last year. Are we dismissing the Longhorns too quickly?
Yeah. Well, let's see. We probably had one coach making up a game plan.
That answers my question.
Offensive
Let's stay in the state of Texas and let's
all
head
this
from Dallas to
weekend.
College
Other
Station.
coach has been kissing his players.
Texas A&M,
So,
Kellen Mond,
yeah.
and
Give
Jimbo
me
Fisher
Oklahoma.
and the rest of the
I'll
Aggies
take them in the
playing
spread. I
host
know this isn't even
to
spread formation.
the Crimson Tide
But
of Alabama.
Lincoln Riley, if he wants to stay in college, I think he's a lock for the Hall of Fame.
You know, another week, another ridiculous game for Tua
to be
Tagovailoa.
Fired coach in about 5 years.
And the rest of that offense, I mean, come on, 59. You know, like they put up 59 points like it's nothing.
No, because if you remember,
coach. And so
they gave up a crap ton of yards
more
and
of the same
last
against
year.
Texas A&M, or is there
Barely
something
won the
that
Red
Jimbo
River
Fisher
Shootout, and then
or Kellen
probably
Mond or anyone
blown
else
out
can do
in the Big
to,
12 title.
you know, keep this game closer than, you know, we would expect it to finish?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris. Those guys are tough to stop. I mean, you know, you can't bracket one. You can't focus on one. You can't, you know, you focus on stopping the run, and then Jerry Jeudy goes vertical on you. You focus on doubling Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs goes off. I mean, the only thing you can do is maybe try to score with them, you know, and try to keep pace with that offense and see if you can't just turn the game into a shootout and hope that Alabama makes a mistake somewhere down the road, because occasionally if you hit Tua, he gets kind of scary because he's not used to getting hit all that much. Alabama's defense is probably the weakest it's been in the last 5 years. I mean, that's not saying a whole lot, considering how strong they've been. But
I think
this is probably, if there was ever a year you could get Alabama on defense, this is probably the year. I mean, Ole Miss put up 30 something.
They're a little. Ole Miss put up 31.
Yeah, I mean,
they're a little thinner than usual. I think they've had more injuries than usual,
I mean,
but still, I mean, you know,
the NFL,
their backups are all still 4- and 5-star kids.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not talented. They just lack experience, which goes a long way in the SEC. I mean, SEC ball, you know, you got to have experience somewhere down the road, and you got to have experience somewhere in some key spots on your defense. If you're playing a lot of new guys due to injury, due to graduation, due to the NFL draft, whatever the case may be, you've got to have experience. And some of these guys are learning on the fly. So I think Texas A&M will get a few early, but you know, like Alabama's done all season, they'll pull away, they'll make some huge play, these talented kids will make a play somewhere, and that offense they'll score 21 on you before you can blink, and you know, next thing you know, you're playing right into their hand. You know, that's the thing that Alabama does the best, is they score so quickly and they're so explosive that they can turn you one-dimensional, and then once they turn you one-dimensional, they got you. So you know, if you're able to keep pace with them, maybe you can be multi-dimensional, and that can kind of frustrate them. But yeah, I just don't see it from Texas A&M. You can only hope that Kellen Mond can do something, but I think that's just their best chance. They've just got to get into a shootout.
Yeah, Josh, you know, anything that you think that, you know, Texas A&M is capable of doing to maybe even at least slow down Alabama?
No, because it's Jimbo Fisher and he hasn't cared at all since about 8 years ago.
Yeah, sounds about right. All right, well, let's then head to the other big game out there in the SEC this weekend. That would be Florida, hot off of their victory over Auburn in the Swamp last weekend. Their prize is a trip to Baton Rouge at night. it is going to be absolutely wild. Number 5, LSU, number 7, Florida, both teams undefeated going into this one. Coach, first, let's head back a week very quickly to that game versus Auburn. They really made Bo Nix look like a true freshman for the first time in this season.
They made him look like a high school senior. I mean, that kid was just I've never seen a quarterback look like that a week after looking like a real like a senior in college. So they did a tremendous job defensively, just frustrating Bo Nix, confusing Bo Nix, getting pressure and getting hits and hurries and things like that on Bo Nix. Also, I think that Gus Malzahn he just did not have a good game plan whatsoever. It kind of felt like what we feared Gus Malzahn would be, and what we had thought Gus Malzahn had gotten away from this year, because he finally found a good fit at quarterback. I just felt like they never really could adjust to what Florida was doing. They were just continuing to run some of their gimmicky things that everyone has film on, that everyone has strategies on how to defeat now at this point. And I just think that he's I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was a good game plan. I felt like Auburn choked a little bit. I felt like that defensive line, they held up as long as they could, but even in the end, they choked by missing several tackles on that LaMichael P. Ryan run. But they just could never take advantage of Florida's mistakes. Florida had plenty of mistakes. Florida had plenty of chances to lose this game. It's not like Florida went out and dominated the whole way. They, both teams tried to lose, and Auburn just wanted to lose more than Florida did at this point. So, it sounds so negative.
I mean, Coach, in the words of the immortal Dennis Green, Auburn they are who we thought they were.
Yep, and they didn't let them off the hook.
No,
so
they didn't. So anyway, this weekend though, Florida LSU. I mean, LSU, we know they always bring the defense, but good Lord, this year's offense is something special. Joe Burrow has emerged as a Heisman candidate. I don't want to say out of nowhere. I mean, he was like maybe a third-tier guy coming into the season, but my goodness, he has looked absolutely, as good as anyone else in the country this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's second in the FBS with 460 passing yards per game. I mean, they're lighting it up, man. They're doing
22 touchdowns through 5 games.
Yeah, it's insane. He just
That's basically 4.5 a game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and a lot of those were against Texas. I think he just scored on Texas again. But yeah, I mean, it's been kind of fun to watch LSU. Offensively, because they're just so explosive and they just hit so many big plays. And they finally found a running game for to complement Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow is everything that Ohio State fans knew he was and were fearful that he would be when he went to LSU. Mm-hmm. They knew LSU was getting a good quarterback, and I'm sure Ohio State fans were kind of bummed.
You know what? I don't think Ohio State fans can complain about having Justin Fields.
No, they can't. They really can't.
Even having Dwayne Haskins last year. Dwayne Haskins last year was phenomenal.
Yes, but that feeling of, wow, what do you think this guy could do?
No, I don't. I'm a Wisconsin fan, man. We've never had even a decent quarterback at our school, much less have a good one transfer away. Come on now.
Yeah, that's true.
The best quarterback we had leave recently was DJ Gillens, who became a wide receiver at like FAU or something.
Yeah, well, you got Graham Mertz, so hold on to him. But
he looked good last week. He played pretty much all the second half, completed all of his passes. Oh boy, the future is bright.
Oh yeah, no, I know the feeling of losing a good quarterback to transfer. I don't think Justin Fields would have done as well at Georgia. Different scheme, different system.
Oh, completely.
I think
he fits Ryan Day way better. And I've talked about my affinity for Ryan Day a little bit too much recently, especially for Josh and the rest of the Big Ten fans. Because let's face it, we hate Ohio State. I hate Ohio State too, but I still.
If Ryan Day coached anywhere else, except maybe Georgia Tech or Florida, or Tennessee, I would be a huge fan of whatever school he's at. I think he's great. I think Lincoln Riley's great. I think Justin Wilcox is really good. And I kind of got caught into sucked into watching Cal a little bit because I just like the way they play defense. And I just kind of like the way they play, and they just play so hard, so physical. Just with, they overachieve greatly.
Man, Evan Weaver is something else. He's a throwback player if there ever was one.
Yeah,
dude's wearing like number 88 out there playing linebacker, looking like freaking Dick Butkus.
But back to LSU, man. Derek Stingley Jr. on the defensive side of the ball. Holy cow, man!
True freshman.
Yeah, he's God Almighty.
He already might be the best defensive back in the nation. He looks like he looks like a GAM out there, a grown bleep man out there.
Yep. Yeah. Now we're a subscription based podcast, so maybe we can say it. He's a grown ass man.
No, I'm sorry, gonna have to bleep that one. We are still we do not have a parental guidance restriction on the podcast. So we don't have the E. We don't have the explicit rating. Maybe we will if Josh and Mitch have a few more cherries Jubilee. If they do, I hope they would enjoy them. But Josh, LSU, they are they're coming off an easy non-conference tune-up before this one. Before that, they just had Vandy. I mean, they should be ready for this. It's been a month since they had that big game against Texas. Since then, they haven't played anyone of note. Vanderbilt's the best team they played, and they pummeled them up here in Nashville.
It's interesting you bring that up. I hate to go full Woody Page and say, look at the schedule, but
look at the schedule.
Look at Florida's schedule. Yeah, they're coming off the Auburn win. Nice. Before that, Towson, FCS.
Towson.
Tennessee.
Should be FCS.
Kentucky, Sunbelt. And Tennessee Martin, probably like a D3 team.
NAIA.
LSU has played Utah State, a contender for the Mountain West. Vandy, who you mentioned, Northwestern State, don't care about those games.
Hey, Northwestern State for an FCS team is better than Towson or Tennessee Martin. So
true.
Also, how did Florida get 2 FCS teams on their schedule?
Well, they scheduled.
I didn't think you could. I literally did not think if you were an FBS team, I didn't think you were allowed to schedule 2 FCS teams. I thought you were allowed a maximum of 1 per season, unless you were an independent.
I think you get an exemption if a school has canceled a game.
Okay.
I don't know who canceled the game. My gut would be back when it was McElwain, he scheduled Colorado State a lot. But don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But I think that's the exception, is if a game has been canceled and you just need to pull an opponent, the NCAA lets you do that. The other exception is obviously if you play Hawaii, you get a 13th game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But long story short, LSU, they're the home team. They've also played a tougher schedule. I like them to roll. How about you, Mitch? You follow the SEC more than I do.
Yeah, LSU. I got nothing. Cut me from this.
So yeah, I mean, Coach, you're obviously going to pick LSU. You're going to pick the Bayou Bengals here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but I really would if I didn't hate Florida so much. I still would pick LSU. I just think they're more talented. They're better coached.
They're just better. They're better.
They're at home at
I'm
night.
not sure if you take one. I don't know if there's a single unit on Florida that is better than their equivalent on LSU.
I think Florida's overrated. LSU's properly rated. So
all right. With that, then let's head to our spread formations. Guys,
LSU was my sleeper to win the West.
Guys, last week was one we don't want to remember.
I was fine.
By fine, you mean 1-4, which is the same that we all were.
Yeah, that's above the Mendoza line.
It is the Mendoza line. That 1-4, literally, the Mendoza line is 200. That is 1 and 4, i.e., 1 out of 5 is the Mendoza line.
Get all technical.
Well, agree to disagree.
We're gonna start with a big line because Coach's Dawgs are 23.5-point favorites at home versus the Gamecocks. The over-under is 53 here. Coach, you're going first this week's on the picks. I assume you're taking Georgia, so tell me why.
Actually, I don't think Georgia's ever covered against South Carolina, so I'm going to take the points.
Oh,
I'm going to take the points here. Coming off a huge emotional game against Tennessee, I would be surprised if they covered. I think they almost cover, but it's just one of those games that it's always close. Somehow, some way, it's always a tight one with Georgia, South Carolina. It was 2 years ago. It was a year ago. It was tight for a little while. I don't think they covered either. I think that they might have covered because the spread was a little bit tighter, but I think South Carolina bringing in a freshman quarterback that's going to be a challenge. Hopefully, he doesn't get his soul taken like
yeah, because Helinski's injured, right?
I don't think so.
Or is Helinski starting?
Helinski's starting.
I thought Helinski was injured, and they were bringing a kid who was behind him. But if Helinski's starting, then he's still a freshman.
I haven't checked. I haven't checked that out yet. I haven't seen exactly who they're starting because I figured whoever they're starting is going to get battered around anyway. But Georgia just doesn't score in bunches. They're very methodical with everything that they do. Like the Weird Al song, like a surgeon. That's what Jake Fromm is. He's a surgeon. He's extremely efficient. For the very
first time.
Yep, he's cut for the very first time. But no, he just picks you apart. They beat you down slowly. So I'm going to take the points here for the Bulldogs. And I think you're going to get for the first time get a heavy dose of Zamir White, or as they call him, Zeus. That's my prediction. I'd probably see the game carry the over more so than Georgia
covering.
Yes.
Josh.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of an issue with this game. I mean, 11 o'clock start Central, the greatest time zone ever. Will Georgia really care at a noon kickoff? I don't know. Maybe that's a reason to pick the Gamecocks. Coach mentioned some of the history with the Gamecocks overachieving this game. I just can't shake the fact that South Carolina is 2-3 on the year. They got blown out by Alabama. They got blown out by Missouri. They lost a heartbreaker to North Carolina. And their two wins are FCS Charleston Southern and Kentucky, who's really not looked good this year. So I'm going to take the Bulldogs to cover that monster spread between the hedges in Athens. What say you, Mitch?
I like the Bulldogs here too. I think that Arkansas and South Carolina and both entered the SEC at the same exact year. And I'm just thinking if South Carolina was in Arkansas's shoes, or I guess if Arkansas was in South Carolina's shoes, we get blown out, 100-1. One is not a possible. God,
it's possible in Canadian football.
Yeah, there you go. So Arkansas is playing Canadian football. Everyone else is playing American football. Maybe that's the reason why we suck so much. Picking the Dogs here too.
Why not? I'm going to take the under. I think the Dogs come out a little sleepy in this one, personally, just because, they had that game over Tennessee was a surprisingly emotional one. I think they come out a little bit slow, eke out. They might cover. I don't think South Carolina's gonna score very much at all against Georgia, but I think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring affair. I could see Georgia winning like 34-10. So give me the under on this one. Anyway, let's head out then to the Pac-12, which we have not talked about yet tonight. We have what is a pick'em. When I sent out our lines, it has faded now to Arizona State being a 1-point favorite at home against Washington State. I mean, I don't know what to do with the Pac-12 right now, Coach. Washington lost last week at Stanford pretty convincingly. I mean, they have no chance to get a playoff team. Washington has 2 losses now. Washington State has 2 losses. Arizona State is the best team in the Pac-12, I guess. But my goodness, A, how do you feel about this one? And B, how do you feel about the Pac-12 overall?
Well, the Pac-12 overall is about as clear as mud. But this game should be exciting to watch because I think anytime Washington State is in a game, that is always exciting. Arizona's not very good, and the over-under is only set to 59. So
Arizona State.
Yes, Arizona State. Either team, very, very exciting. Both these teams, this is the battle of HBO because I think both teams are going to be on that HBO series 24/7, which is really good. Penn State is the newest episode, speaking of. I mean, if it's a pick 'em, there's not really much of a spread. I do like Arizona State at home. They're playing really well. I think it's going to be an interesting affair. Let's see how Washington State responds to getting called out by Mike Leach, as he calls them soft and entitled and fat, dumb, and happy. So let's see how they respond to that. But I'm going to pick Arizona State here.
Josh.
Well, someone who I think is a pretty good coach based on what he did in a small sample size at Minnesota and seems to know defense, Tracy Claeys, he resigned from Washington State. I don't know what is going on that side of the ball. Their defense has struggled mightily. And Arizona State, very, very quietly. They are 4-1. They lost kind of a heartbreaker to Colorado, but bounced back really well with a road trip up to California, won that game in the Bay Area. They beat Michigan State. Granted, not a great team, but it was on the road. And I just think they're quietly playing some really sound football. And let's be honest, you play to win the game. So I'm going to go with Arizona State to cover. How about you, Mitch?
Well, I'm actually lost. I'm looking at Arizona State, too. I like them to cover as well. I'm a big fan of their head coach, Herm Edwards. Partially, actually, probably I'd say mostly because I'm from Kansas City, so I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Love college football more than the NFL, but, Kansas City Chiefs are, right now, they're a hot team. They're a powerhouse. And, Herm Edwards was head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs from 2006, 2008.
Mm-hmm. Brody Croyle era.
Right. And he left, but he left them in a great state. Mm-hmm. He left them on the path to what they would become right now, which are Super Bowl contenders. He left at the end of the 2008 season a franchise worst, 2-14. So
now, Mitch, I do need to ask you though, who has better time management at the end of the game, Herm Edwards or Andy Reid?
Neither. We're going with the Pirate. So Wazoo to win and cover.
Oh, Wazoo to win and cover.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I mean, the game's now at -1 as we pick. I
think it's just the negative reaction to seeing Herm Edwards on the sideline. I think we have some Kansas PTSD right there.
A little emotional.
Well, you know what, Mitch? I'm actually there with you, and I'm just going to I will always ride with the Pirate pretty much no matter what. So why not? I'm going with Washington State because, well, you know what? If me, Coach, and Josh usually agree on a game, then we're usually all wrong. So they agreed on it. So I kind of have to go the other way. So at least one of us will be right. Next, let's head to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. The Mustard Buzzards are taking on the North Texas Mean Green team that we thought coming into the season could be one of the best in the group of 5. They have had a downer of a year. So far, only 2-3 for Mason Fine and the rest of that North Texas offense. They've only been putting up 33 points a game. We expected much more out of them. They've lost to a couple pretty good teams in SMU and Cal, but also lost to Houston pretty handily. So they are 3-point dogs on the road in Hattiesburg, Coach. You like the Mustard Buzzards?
I do. It's going to be a blackout at what they call the Rock.
Shouldn't it be like shouldn't it be like the Lair or the Nest or like I don't know what the perch for the Eagles?
Perch. Yeah. I don't know. That's weird. Maybe the Mustard Buzzards, maybe Golden Eagles sit on top of rocks, I guess.
I don't know. I figure all birds sit on top of rocks.
Either way, Southern Miss football sent out a tweet that says, "When the night calls, will you answer?" And
that's a little creepy. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a video of them.
Southern Miss, as someone who is a Title IX coordinator at the school he works at, you might have to reconsider the wording in that tweet.
Yes. Either way, they're blacking out. It's a big affair. They're rolling right along. So I'm going to take the University of Southern Mississippi at -3. Plus, it's Brett Favre's birthday today. So happy birthday, Brett Favre.
Joshua.
Well, it's tough because North Texas hasn't done well as a team, and I think that's a fair assessment. But Mason Fine himself individually is putting together a pretty good year. And so I was trying to figure out a little bit more about Brett Favre's alma mater down there at Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I noticed that, well, they beat Alcorn State. Okay, fine, whatever. Won at Troy by just 5 points. And then beat UTEP, one of the worst teams really in the country. And so I'm going to go with North Texas. I think that Mason Fine's been playing well. I think they find themselves. I think they get it into gear finally this week. I'm going to trust the Mean Green a little bit longer. And when we were talking about this game, Mitch said he neither cared nor had a read on it. So he's going to sit this one out because it's, let's be honest, North Texas and Southern Miss.
I mean, let's be fair. This is a tough one, but I like North Texas here. Just because I feel like the Mustard Buzzards have been a little bit of smoke and mirrors this year. Yeah, they're 3-2, but it like you said, Josh, they eked out I will say a lucky win at Troy. They beat a terrible UTEP team. They beat Alcorn State. They got rolled by Alabama. Okay, so does everyone. But they got beat pretty handily by Mississippi State. Mississippi State is not as good as they were last year. And I don't know. I don't really think that Southern Miss is as good as their record says they are, even though, according to the Big Tuna, Bill Parcells himself, you are what your record says you are. I think North Texas is a better team. Give me the Mean Green. Let's stay in the group of 5, heading over to the American Conference. Houston, who are 2-3 and have suffered not the injury, but the redshirting of some of their best players, including quarterback De'Aaron King. Cincinnati comes into town as a 7.5-point favorite, coming off of a win over Central Florida last week. Over under here, 51.5. Coach, what side are you on?
Considering what Cincinnati did last week, I'm on the Bearcat side. I think they are playing some really good football right now. They had an upset of Central Florida, a team that's extremely explosive offensively, and I think defensively Houston just can't hold up because that's not what Dana Holgorsen does. Dana Holgorsen, I don't think he knows how to spell defense. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
Josh.
Cincinnati.
Beep, 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 beep. I got something over the old telegram machine. Another Houston player redshirted.
Huh?
I'm going to take the SMU Ponies. Mitch, how about you?
Well,
SMU is not even playing in this game.
What?
It's
Didn't you say it was-
Cincinnati versus Houston.
Even better. You
SMU will still win that game.
SMC was
How
somehow
is
going to
the
win
SMU
Cincinnati
game
versus
think
Houston.
I think I misread the show rundown.
Clearly.
Sorry
Clearly
about
you
that.
did. Because
Can I-
it is
Matt,
Cincinnati.
Matt, can
No,
you
this
edit
is
that?
all staying in, my friend.
Matt, can you edit that? I'll read you my little beep 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 sound.
I mean, we can. Yeah, man, go for it. I can edit this around.
All right. We'll redo that. Beep 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 boop beep beep boop. I just got something over the old telegram machine. Western Union says another Houston player. Stop. Redshirted. Stop. Give me the Bearcats.
Boop. Stop. Oh wait, no, that's good.
And I just saw another Houston player put on another red jersey. Oh no, that's not their main jersey. It's just a red shirt.
They're all wearing actual red shirts on the sideline from now on, and they outnumber the players who are in actual uniform. I like Cincinnati here too, and I also like. I also really like the over as well. I'm torn on which one to take. You guys both took Cincinnati, so it makes me scared to take Cincinnati as well. So I'm going to take the over. Finally, it's the 150th season of college football. That means we need to talk about Rutgers, because what would an Illegal Motion show be without discussing the State University of New Jersey and their Scarlet Knights?
Speaking of Chris Ash, he is a volunteer assistant for Tom Herman at this moment. Just so you know.
He's not
I
earning
have
the
one
pay.
thing to
He's not
say
earning the
about
pay that he's getting.
I have one thing to say about that. I hope that picked up. I kissed into the microphone.
Yeah, that picked up quite well. Quite well. Josh,
Even better.
Coach, Rutgers is a 28-point dog to Indiana. Nobody, and I mean nobody, except for maybe UMass, because, I mean, let's face it, they are 33-point dogs this weekend to Louisiana Tech in Ruston. We love Ruston, don't get me wrong. Connecticut, 34-point dogs this weekend to Tulane. But the game we are talking about, Rutgers, Indiana. Rutgers, a Power 5 team. Indiana should not be favored by 28 over any Power 5 team.
No.
Any Power 5 team. But yet, here we are, Coach.
It's a conference game, too.
Coach, it is.
It's kind of like Georgia Tech.
It's really sad.
It is. It is.
And, you know, the line here on this one, like I said, Indiana by 28. The over-under on this one is set to 49.5. Coach, what side are you on?
I kind of want to feel sorry for Rutgers and just pick them to cover, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I know it's bad, but it can't.
So you're taking the Hoosiers?
I'm going to take the Hoosiers.
Josh.
Well, this is where the benefit of being a
Hold on. Beep, 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 beep. Another Rutgers player has just redshirted as well.
No, Rutgers has had a lot of players redshirt, to say the least. This is where being a Big Ten person comes into a little bit of benefit. Indiana's won the last 3, but 2 of the 3 have been single-digit games. 2015, 2014, Rutgers won. I'm doing it. I am pulling the Rutgers ripcord. They'll get blown out, but not by this absurd spread. I'm taking Rutgers. How about you, Mitch?
I work with a wonderful woman who went to Indiana, and in her entire 4-year academic career, never went to a single Hoosiers football game, and she graduated last year. So I, doesn't what the Hoosiers academic base, fan sports, what they have going for them, versus what the Rutgers kind of wild card, in this case, as crazy as it is to say it, wild card has going for them. I have to pick Rutgers to upset that spread.
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to be Debbie Downer here, and I'm going to take the under because I don't think Rutgers can score 10 points, but I also don't think Indiana can score like more than 30. So give me the under. And with that, gentlemen, that is our 200th show, our bicentennial. In the year of college football's sesquicentennial, one of my favorite words in the English language, which means 150th anniversary. Thank you very much, English language.
Thank you very much.
Josh, we didn't bury we already unburied the lead.
No, we
dug up the lead.
Buried the lead. We buried the lead on having a guest, and then
twice baked lead, a twice buried lead.
Talk about Arkansas heading to the world's largest grocery bag, Kroger Stadium,
Kentucky.
In Kentucky. You got Kentucky and Arkansas.
How did we bury the lead with an Arkansas fan in our midst?
I don't know. That's
literally in our presence.
It hurts me.
Yeah.
It hurts me.
On the show.
We got a pair of teams who are sitting at 2 and 3. But let's be honest. Kentucky really has nothing to play for. Florida is running away with the East, or Georgia is running away with the East. That's a 2-team race. Arkansas is sitting perfectly in the SEC West. I can't think of a single team that is running away with this division. Can you name a single team in the SEC West, Mitch, that is better than your Arkansas Razorbacks? I dare you to name one team.
Ole Miss.
I was going to go with Mississippi State. So, great minds think at least like quasi-alike.
There you go. All right. Let me give you a little bit of real Arkansas commentary here. All right. So we got Nick Starkel, who's coming off an injury, but he's fully healed up. So he only threw about 5 interceptions over the last 2 weeks. Also, the whole Arkansas Razorback team coming off a tough loss in that bye week. It's rough. You hate to see it, but hopefully they can bounce back from that tough bye week. But Nick Starkel does have 2 receivers who we can throw to, who are coming off injuries that are fully back. We got Mike Woods and Trey Knox, and that's about as much Arkansas commentary as I have.
Now, that's a lot of injuries. Is there a medical school at Arkansas?
There is. It's all the way in Little Rock, about 2.5 hours away. So
that's why all the players are injured. All the team doctors are in Little Rock, and the team is in Fayetteville.
Pretty much. That's it. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I think on behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, here in the Music City, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook, up there in the Windy City, and his special guest, the number one hog in our hearts, Mitch. This is the blogger. This is the professor in the Music City saying so long, and see you next time on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. Mitch, give us a little woo pig suey.
Woo! Hey!
Pig suey!
Woo!
There we go.
Woo! Pig
suey!
Razorbacks.
Let's go. Hogs. Couldn't even do that right.
Let's go home.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. To get in touch with the show, email us at illegalmotionpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at illegal_motion and check out our Facebook page.